Hello, hello. Welcome back to English Over Tea, the podcast where we help you learn natural spoken English while talking about fun everyday topics. I am Dan.
And I am Anna. We're so happy you are joining us today. Whether you're listening on your way to work, washing the dishes, or just relaxing on your sofa, thank you for being here.
Exactly. We love our listeners. Now, Anna, before we introduce today's big topic, I have to ask you a question. What happened to your arm? You have a bandage on it.
Oh my goodness, Dan. It is a funny story, but also a little embarrassing. So you know how I always say I want to escape the city and live in the quiet countryside?
Yes, you talk about it all the time. You always say, I want to buy a farm, get some chickens, and grow my own carrots.
Exactly. Well, this past weekend, I decided to test it out. I rented a small wooden cabin in the middle of a forest. No internet, no neighbors, just me and nature.
Oh, wow, that sounds very brave. So, how did you get the bandage? Did you fight a wild bear?
No, no bears, but it was pitch black outside at night. Pitch black means completely dark, with absolutely no light. Anyway, I heard a strange scratching noise outside my window. I panicked, jumped out of bed, tripped over my own suitcase, and fell right into the wooden door.
Oh no, you hurt yourself because you were scared of a noise? What was making the noise?
It was a tiny little squirrel dropping nuts on the roof.
A squirrel. So the great nature explorer was defeated by a squirrel and a suitcase.
Yes, go ahead and laugh, but honestly, it made me realize something important. Living in the countryside is very different from dreaming about it. And that brings us perfectly to today's topic. Today, we are comparing city life and country life.
That is a wonderful topic. Where is the best place to live? It's a question almost everyone thinks about at some point in their life.
Exactly. And for our English learners, this is a great episode because it gives us a chance to teach you some fantastic vocabulary. We'll learn how to describe different places, talk about advantages and disadvantages, and express our personal opinions.
So let's start with some basic vocabulary. When we talk about these two lifestyles, we often use two specific adjectives, urban and rural.
Yes, let's explain those. Urban is spelled U-R-B-A-N. Urban means anything related to a city or town. So an urban area has lots of buildings, paved roads, traffic, and millions of people.
For example, you might hear the phrase urban planning or urban lifestyle. If you live in Tokyo, Berlin, or Toronto, you are living an urban life.
And the opposite of urban is rural. Rural is spelled R-U-R-A-L. Rural refers to the countryside.
Right. A rural area has fewer people, more farms, forests, and lots of open land. It's the exact opposite of the city. So, Anna, after your squirrel incident, do you still want to live a rural lifestyle?
We'll get to my current feelings later. Let's explore the good things about the city first. Dan, you are definitely a city person. Why do you love the urban lifestyle so much?
I really do. For me, the biggest advantage is the vibrant atmosphere.
Vibrant is a great word. It means full of energy, bright, and active.
Yes, a city is vibrant. There's always something happening. You step outside your apartment and you see people walking their dogs, street musicians playing guitar, and neon signs glowing. I love that energy. It makes me feel awake.
I agree with that. The energy in a city is contagious. Contagious usually describes a sickness you can catch from someone else, like a cold. But here, it means the energy spreads to you. You feel energetic because the city is energetic.
Exactly. Another huge benefit is the amenities.
Oh, amenities. That's an excellent vocabulary word. Amenities. Can you explain what an amenity is, Dan?
Of course, amenities are useful features or services in a place that make life more comfortable or enjoyable. So, city amenities include things like public swimming pools, huge libraries, 24-hour pharmacies, and public transportation.
And food delivery. Let's be honest, Dan. You love food delivery apps.
Guilty. If I want a spicy Thai green curry at midnight on a Tuesday, I can just open an app on my phone and 30 minutes later, it's at my front door. That level of convenience is only possible in an urban area.
In a rural area, if you want Thai curry at midnight, you have to cook it yourself. And you probably have to grow the vegetables yourself, too.
Exactly. Besides food, cities are amazing for professional growth. There are so many job opportunities. The headquarters of major international companies, tech startups, and large hospitals are usually located in urban centers.
That is true. If you're ambitious, meaning you have a strong desire to succeed in your career, the city is usually the best place to be. You can network with other professionals easily. Networking is when you meet people who might help you in your career.
Right. You might meet your future business partner while waiting in line for a coffee. That spontaneous connection happens a lot in crowded places.
Public transportation is another massive advantage. In many big cities, you don't even need to own a car. You can take the subway, a tram, or a bus.
And that saves you a lot of money. Cars are expensive. You have to pay for fuel, repairs, and insurance. But with a monthly train pass, you can travel anywhere in the city.
Not to mention, you don't have to stress about finding a parking space. Trying to park a car in a busy city can take longer than the actual driving.
True. I also want to mention culture and entertainment. Cities are the center of art and culture. You have art galleries, massive sports stadiums, and live theater. If a famous singer is going on a world tour, they're going to perform in a big city, not in a small village.
Exactly. There's a phrase we use in English, spoiled for choice. It means you have so many good options that it's hard to decide. In a city, you're really spoiled for choice when it comes to weekend activities.
You could go to a museum in the morning, try Ethiopian food for lunch, watch a professional basketball game in the afternoon, and see a comedy show at night. It's almost impossible to be bored.
But wait, Dan, you're making the city sound like a magical paradise where nothing ever goes wrong. And we both know that's not the reality.
Well, okay, I admit it. It's not a perfect paradise.
There's a dark side to the city, too.
Yes, as much as you love your midnight food delivery and your museums, there are some major disadvantages to urban living. I think we need to balance this conversation out.
That's totally fair. What's the worst part about the city for you, Anna? For me, it's the constant sensory overload.
Sensory overload. That's a fantastic phrase. Can you break that down for our listeners?
Sure, your senses are how you experience the world. Seeing, hearing, smelling. Overload means too much of something. So sensory overload is when your brain is getting way too much information from your environment.
Ah, I understand. Like when there are bright flashing lights, loud construction noises, and terrible smells happening at exactly the same time.
Yes, and that happens every single day in the city.
You are so right about sensory overload. In the city, the noise never truly stops. You have ambulance sirens, buses loudly hitting the brakes, and sometimes you can even hear your upstairs neighbor vacuuming their floor at 2 in the morning.
Oh, the noisy neighbors. That is a huge downside. In a city apartment building, you are living incredibly close to strangers. There is very little privacy. If your neighbor decides they want to learn how to play the trumpet, congratulations, you are also learning how to play the trumpet.
That is so true. We often use the phrase hustle and bustle to describe this intense city lifestyle. Can you explain that phrase, Anna?
Sure. Hustle and bustle means a large amount of activity and noise. It describes the fast, busy movement of people in a crowded place. Sometimes the hustle and bustle is exciting, but other times it is just exhausting. You feel like you can never truly relax because everyone is always rushing.
Another major negative is the pollution. Because there are so many cars, trucks, and factories, the air quality can be quite poor. In some megacities, there is a thick layer of smog. Smog is a mixture of smoke and fog that hangs in the air. It makes the sky look gray and dirty instead of bright blue.
And breathing in smog every day is certainly not great for your health. But Dan, we have not even mentioned the biggest disadvantage of urban living yet, the cost.
Ah, yes, the cost of living. This phrase refers to how much money you need to pay for basic everyday expenses like housing, food, transportation, and taxes. The cost of living in a major metropolitan area is incredibly high.
It really is. Paying for housing is usually the biggest problem. In places like London, New York, or Sydney, people pay thousands of dollars every month just to rent a shoebox.
A shoebox? You mean the cardboard box that shoes come in?
Exactly. We use the word shoebox as slang to describe a very, very small apartment. You pay a fortune, and your bed is practically sitting inside your kitchen. Because of this, it can be very difficult for young people to make ends meet.
That is a great idiom to teach. Making ends meet means to have just enough money to pay for your basic needs and bills. Making ends meet in the city can definitely cause a lot of anxiety. So, with all that noise, pollution, and high rent, it's easy to see why people dream of escaping to the country. Let's shift our focus and talk about the positive sides of rural life.
Yes, let's talk about the countryside. Despite my little accident with the squirrel and the suitcase last weekend, I still think rural life has some beautiful advantages. First of all, the scenery.
Scenery refers to the natural features of a landscape, things like mountains, lakes, green valleys, and thick forests.
Exactly. The countryside is often very picturesque. If something is picturesque, it looks absolutely perfect, like a beautiful painting or a postcard on a postcard. Waking up, looking out your window and seeing nothing but rolling green hills and horses, it's so peaceful.
It sounds incredibly relaxing. You trade the hustle and bustle for peace and quiet. Instead of hearing police sirens, you hear birds singing and the wind blowing through the trees.
And the air is so fresh. There is no smog blocking the sky. At night, because there are no bright city streetlights, you can actually see millions of stars. It's truly breathtaking. Breathtaking means something is so beautiful that it takes your breath away in surprise.
I also think the lifestyle in the countryside is much healthier, not just because of the clean air, but because you have space. You can have a big garden in your backyard and grow your own food.
Right. Locally sourced food is a big, expensive trend in city restaurants right now. But in the countryside, it's just normal life. You can go to a local farmer's market and buy apples that were picked from a tree that exact same morning. They taste completely different from the shiny, wax-covered apples you buy in a city supermarket.
What about the people, Anna? One thing I always hear is that rural communities are much friendlier. In my apartment building in the city, I've lived next to the same man for 3 years, and I don't even know his first name. We just nod at each other in the elevator.
That is so common in the city. City life can actually be very lonely, even though you're surrounded by millions of people. But in a small town or village, there's a very strong sense of community.
What does a sense of community mean?
It means people feel connected to each other. They actively look out for one another. A few years ago, I visited my aunt who lives in a tiny farming village. While I was there, her car broke down in her driveway. Within 10 minutes, 3 different neighbors came over with tools to help her fix it, and one of them even brought her a homemade apple pie.
Wow, that is amazing. They are a tight-knit group. That means a group of people who care about each other and support each other closely, like the threads in a tightly knitted sweater.
Exactly. The local baker knows your favorite bread, the postman knows your dog's name, and people actually smile and say good morning when you walk down the street. It's a very warm and welcoming environment.
And we can't forget about the financial side. The cost of living in a rural area is significantly lower.
Oh, definitely. In the countryside, you get a lot more bang for your buck.
Let me quickly explain that idiom. Bang for your buck means you get much more value for the money you spend. A buck is an informal slang term for a dollar.
Right. For the exact same price as a tiny, noisy shoebox apartment in the city, you could buy a huge, beautiful house in the country with a massive yard, a garage, and maybe even a small pond.
A massive house, a beautiful yard, and a private pond. I have to admit, Anna, when you describe it like that, it sounds like an absolute dream. But as we always say, the grass is always greener on the other side, right?
Exactly. Let's explain that famous idiom for our listeners. The grass is always greener on the other side means we always think other people's situations are better than our own, even when they are not. People in the city dream of the quiet country, and people in the country dream of the exciting city.
So true. And that means it is time to look at the harsh reality. We need to talk about the disadvantages of living a rural lifestyle.
Yes, we need to burst the bubble. To burst someone's bubble means to destroy their perfect, happy illusion with some difficult facts. So, Dan, grab a pen and let's burst this bubble. What is the biggest problem with the countryside for you?
For me, it is the distance. Everything is just so incredibly far away. You are completely dependent on having a vehicle. In the city, you can easily survive without a car. In the country, if your car breaks down, you are essentially trapped.
That is a very valid point. You really have to rely on your car. To rely on something means you need it and depend on it completely. If you want to buy a simple carton of milk, it might be a 20-minute drive. If you want to go to a specialized pharmacy, that could be a 40-minute drive.
We often call a trip like that a trek. A trek is a long, tiring, and sometimes difficult journey. Going to the grocery store should not feel like an epic adventure. But in a rural area, it really is a trek. You have to plan your shopping trips days in advance. No midnight ice cream runs there.
And it's not just about ice cream or milk. What about emergencies? If someone gets badly injured or suddenly falls ill, the nearest major hospital might be an hour away. That distance can be very scary in a medical emergency.
Definitely. And speaking of distance, let's talk about being far away from people. We mentioned earlier that rural areas have a great sense of community, but they can also feel very isolated.
Isolated is a very important vocabulary word for this topic. It means being far away from other places, buildings, or people. You are physically separated from the rest of the world. Some people love that feeling, but for others, it leads to intense loneliness.
Exactly. Have you ever heard of the phrase cabin fever?
Oh, yes. Cabin fever is that restless, irritable feeling you get when you're stuck inside a house or isolated in a remote area for too long. You feel like the walls are closing in on you and you just want to escape and see a massive crowd of people.
That happens a lot during long, snowy winters in the country. And you know what makes cabin fever even worse? Bad internet.
The ultimate modern tragedy. It's true, though. The infrastructure in rural areas is often not as advanced as in the city. The Wi-Fi connection can be very spotty.
Let's define spotty. If an internet connection is spotty, it is unreliable. It works perfectly for 5 minutes, then stops working completely, then comes back again. It's very frustrating, especially if you're trying to do remote work.
Imagine trying to have an important video meeting with your boss and your screen keeps freezing because a tractor drove past the house and ruined the signal. So, remote workers really need to do their research before moving out to the middle of nowhere.
Now, Anna, I want to go back to something you said earlier. You mentioned that people in small towns are very friendly and look out for each other.
Yes, the tight-knit community. I love that part.
Well, there's a dark side to that, too. When everyone knows everyone, there are no secrets. Small towns are famous for being nosy.
Ah, nosy. Nosy. If someone is nosy, they're overly interested in other people's private business. They want to know exactly what you're doing, who you're dating, and what you bought at the hardware store.
Exactly. My uncle used to live in a very small farming village. One Tuesday, he bought a brand new, expensive television. The delivery truck parked outside his house for maybe 10 minutes. By Wednesday morning, the whole town was talking about how my uncle must have won the lottery.
Oh my goodness, that is a perfect example of gossip. Gossip is casual conversation or rumors about other people, and it often involves details that are not confirmed to be true. In a small village, news travels faster than the speed of light.
It really does. So while it's nice to have people who care about you, you have to sacrifice a lot of your privacy. You can't be completely anonymous like you can in a big city.
That is a very fair compromise to point out. It seems like both lifestyles require a lot of sacrifices. If you live in the city, you sacrifice peace, quiet, and personal space. If you live in the country, you sacrifice convenience, privacy, and entertainment.
Speaking of entertainment, let's talk about things to do. If you're a young person, a teenager, or a college student, rural life can be extremely boring. There are no massive shopping malls, no big cinemas, and definitely no buzzing nightlife.
True, you have to create your own fun. You go hiking, fishing, or you sit on your porch and read books, which sounds absolutely lovely to me right now. But when I was 18 years old, I would have hated it.
Exactly. Your preferences definitely change depending on your stage of life. That means how old you are, your career path, and what your current responsibilities are. A single 20-year-old usually wants a very different lifestyle than a retired couple.
That is so true. But Dan, what if you simply cannot decide? What if you want the excitement of the city, but you also want a big backyard and a golden retriever? Is there a compromise?
A compromise is when you find a middle ground between two different things or opinions. And yes, in this situation, there is a very famous compromise. It is called the suburbs.
Ah, yes, the suburbs. Suburbs. A suburb is a residential area located just outside the edge of a big city. Residential means the area is mostly made up of houses, schools, and parks, not giant office buildings or loud factories.
Right. If you live in the suburbs, people often say you get the best of both worlds. That is a very popular English idiom. The best of both worlds means you get to enjoy the advantages of two very different situations at the exact same time.
Exactly. You get a larger house with a garden, and it is safe and quiet for your family. But if you want to go to a famous museum or eat at a five-star restaurant, you're only a 30-minute train ride away from the city center.
However, living in the suburbs usually introduces a brand new vocabulary word into your daily life, the commute.
Oh, the commute. C-O-M-M-U-T-E. To commute means to travel a regular distance between your home and your workplace every day.
Yes, people who live in the suburbs often have a very long commute. My friend James lives in a beautiful suburb, but he commutes for an hour and a half every single morning. He has to wake up at 5 a.m., drive his car to the station, sit on a crowded train, and then walk to his office.
Wow, that means he spends 3 full hours every day just traveling. That completely changes your pace of life. The pace of life is the speed at which you live your daily existence. When you commute that much, your pace of life can feel very exhausting.
Exactly. So, as we can see, there is no perfect answer. Every single choice, the city, the countryside, or the suburbs, has its own unique pros and cons. It all depends on your personal priorities. So, Anna, let me ask you the big question. What is your ultimate goal? Where do you see yourself living in 10 years?
Well, despite my terrifying encounter with the squirrel last weekend, I still think my heart belongs outside the city. But I have adjusted my dream just a little bit. I don't want to be completely isolated in a dark forest. I think I want to live in a small town.
A small town is a great middle ground.
Yes, a place where I can have a big vegetable garden and breathe clean air, but still walk to a local bakery or grocery store in 10 minutes. What about you, Dan? Are you staying in the concrete jungle forever?
A concrete jungle is a funny nickname for a modern city because everything is made of gray concrete. I think for the next 5 to 10 years, I will definitely stay in the city. I love my career, I love the convenience, and I'm not ready to give up my late night food deliveries.
I knew you were going to mention the food delivery.
I can't help it. But maybe when I retire, I will move somewhere near the ocean. A beach town sounds like a very nice change of scenery. Now, before we wrap up today's episode, let's do a quick review of the wonderful vocabulary we learned today.
Good idea. We started with the adjectives urban, meaning related to the city, and rural, meaning related to the countryside. We talked about how cities are vibrant and full of amenities, but they can also cause sensory overload because of the hustle and bustle.
We also discussed the high cost of living in the city, where you might have to rent a tiny shoebox apartment just to make ends meet.
Then we moved to the countryside, which is often picturesque with a wonderful sense of community, and you definitely get more bang for your buck out there.
But we also burst the bubble by mentioning the downsides of rural life. Things are very isolated, the internet can be spotty, and sometimes the neighbors are a bit nosy and love to gossip.
And finally, we talked about finding the best of both worlds in the suburbs, even if it means you have to deal with a long daily commute.
Excellent summary. Now it's time for our favorite part of the show, hearing from you, our fantastic listeners. We want you to practice your English right now.
Yes, head down to the comment section and tell us, are you an urban person or a rural person? Where do you currently live and what is your favorite thing about it?
If you need a little help starting your sentence, you can try using these templates. I live in a rural area and I love the peace and quiet, but I dislike the long commute. Or, I prefer the urban lifestyle because I enjoy having so many amenities nearby.
We read every single comment, and it brings us so much joy to see you practicing the vocabulary we teach. Don't be afraid to make a spelling or grammar mistake. This is a safe space to learn and grow together.
Exactly. If you enjoyed this conversation, please hit that like button. It really helps our channel grow and allows us to reach more English learners all around the world.
And don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode of English Over Tea. We have so many more fun, everyday topics coming your way.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Keep practicing, stay curious, and remember that your English is getting better and better every single day.
Have a wonderful week, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye, friends.